Hi, and welcome to Insights. Today, I'm so happy to have Jolinda Johnson with us, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her experience in publishing this fantastic book, Resilience, all about burnout.
Yes.
Hi, Jolinda, welcome.
Hi, Natalia. So happy to be here.
It's so lovely to be here. So tell us a little bit maybe about your experience and what you were doing and how it led you to be found like by this publishing house. It's a good story. I can't wait to hear more. Yeah.
Well, I think like a lot of people listening, I've always known that I was going to write a book. I think that some of us just carry that in us from childhood. Um, and the thing that I really wasn't clear about is how it would happen. But I'm a coach who specializes in burnout, hence the book Resilience: 10 Ways to Recover from Burnout and Exhaustion, as well as perimenopause. So I really help people who are struggling with chronic stress in midlife, specifically women. And I was at a speaking event in Melbourne, Australia, in the summer of 2022. I think it was the end of August. And one of the audience members said, "What do you feel like is next for you?" Because at this point I had been coaching for about 7 years, and I had mentioned writing quite a few times. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity to claim my vision on stage and say, well, I'm going to write a book this year. And then 3 weeks after that, I was contacted by a publishing house just out of the blue. An editor had followed me for years on Instagram. And this is back when Instagram was still a place to really share ideas in not long form, but definitely in more than just reels. And I did quite a bit of writing on my social posts. And she said, I have an opportunity for you if you're interested. We need someone to write a book about burnout. It needs to be called Resilience, and it needs to be written in 6 weeks. And so then it turned into, how can I write a book about burnout without burning myself out? Because 6 weeks is really quite a tight deadline. And before accepting it, I Googled, I think I remember Googling, is it possible to write a book in 6 weeks?
Really? Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Because I thought, oof, gosh, but I also I knew that this was an incredible opportunity because most people don't just get approached like that. Um, the only caveat is that, I mean, aside from only having 6 weeks, is that I was commissioned to write the book. So I don't receive anything in terms of royalties. The publishing house has all of the rights and they can do with it as they like. But because I also think of this as my first book, not my only book,
Mm.
um, I thought that it would be a lot easier to um, publish the second if I already had a first, and contact literary agents, etc., and go through that whole process. So yes, I was able to write the book also because as you see behind me, if you're watching the video, I have many books in my library. This is just a portion of that. And I'm always reading, I'm always writing, and I had many notebooks of unpublished work that I could draw on that have been included, um, you know, in the book, which definitely helped me quite a bit. And it's been really an incredible experience to know that my thoughts and ideas
Mm.
um, are now, in people's hands.
Yes, please show us. And I love your internal design. Maybe you can
Yeah,
share with us a little bit.
yeah. So this was the publisher's idea to do it like this, but I thought that's perfect because, when you are burnt out, you really aren't in the mood for a heavy text. You want something that's very practical. I made sure to include things that could really be put into action quite easily. Because it's about, when you recognize that you are on the brink of burnout or already in that, final stage of burnout, and you want to know how you can help yourself. And I do feel like burnout is something that there's a lot of emphasis given on our individual choices, but recovery from burnout really does require not only your own desire to experience health and well-being again, but the amount of support that's available to you. And so, this is really part of a larger picture, reading the book and practicing some of the things that I
Yeah.
put forth. But if you can combine that with a great community of support, then you're well on your way.
Yes, maybe you can share with us a few tips of what we can do to avoid burnout because, maybe not chronic burnout, but definitely I'm sure everybody has experienced burnout to some degree. So maybe you just
Yeah.
have a few short things you could share from your book.
Sure. Well, I mean, the latest statistic is that 8 out of 10 people are going to experience some kind of burnout in 2024 worldwide. So it really is becoming quite an epidemic. Um, and the first stage of burnout has 4 stages. The first stage of burnout is what a lot of people would just call adulting. It's, feeling like you're on edge, um, but that you still have the capacity to take more on, um, feeling like you have a hard time winding down at night. So you need some kind of, either a glass of wine or scrolling on your phone or binging on, a series to kind of disconnect, coffee in the morning to fully wake up. Um, but these are actually things that are part of the stress response, when we don't create intentional time, because the 21st century is just full of um, stimulation, right? And so our bodies are constantly on high alert. So it's gotten to the point where if we're not creating intentional time to come back to baseline every day, whether that's through breathing, deep breathing, meditation, um, exercise, exercise / moving our bodies, because a lot of us spend so much time just sitting, especially if you live somewhere where you're going from your car to your office. You might not even get a 10-minute walk outside. Spending time in nature. And then, of course, sleep. So many of us, and I deal with midlife clients primarily, we have disrupted sleep. So we either have a hard time, this is a hallmark of the first stage of burnout, when you have a hard time winding down, or when you're constantly waking up at 3 a.m. You can fall asleep, but you're always up in the middle of the night. And that's something that's basic for, replenishment and renewal, is getting that solid, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. The second stage of burnout is also one that you can be in for years that a lot of people ignore. A lot of women or people listening who have periods might recognize that their periods are more painful, heavier, more symptoms of PMS, more irritability. That's also a red flag that's often taken for granted. But when your body is in the stress response, everything is being diverted to that. So digestion, becomes more problematic. All of your, sexual reproduction, your libido, your sexual hormones, they also are deprioritized. Brain fog becomes a thing, so if you're trying to be creative, that was, I wanted to submit a book proposal. I think it was the end of the summer 2020. And we all know what 2020 was like, an incredibly difficult time. And I was running, as I am now, my own business. My son at the time was 5, 6, and I was just trying to keep everything going. And by the end of the summer, I really wanted to enter this contest to write a memoir. And I was just at capacity. I couldn't even put 2 sentences together because I was maxed out. And so if you are a creative, creativity and stress do not go very well. A little bit of stress can be good, but if it's chronic, and we never, as I say, never give ourselves that time to replenish ourselves and to rest, then it's going to be really difficult to create your best creative work. And then, the final stage of burnout usually ends in some kind of, not just a diagnosis of burnout, but for a lot of us, an autoimmune disease. So Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, really common among women, especially in your 40s. Crohn's disease, when it comes to the gut. Insulin resistance is another thing that's often a result of chronic stress. And these things all become more problematic as we get older, especially, again, as women after menopause, because we lose our hormonal buffer. So that's another reason why I like to focus on midlife, because it's really a powerful time to look at and be honest with yourself about what are the habits that need to shift. And maybe this worked for me in my 20s and 30s, constantly being on and constantly pushing myself and overriding my body's signals, but that's not going to work in my 40s. And if I continue that into my 50s, then after menopause, it's going to be even more difficult because I won't have any kind of buffer. And then, that's when you see some of the, really serious issues start to come up. So the good thing is that burnout is not something that happens overnight. And there are so many opportunities. There are daily opportunities to recalibrate. But it really takes a commitment to, connecting with your body, honoring your needs, and setting boundaries, not just with other people, but also with yourself.
So if somebody was to read your book, that would really be able to prevent them getting further, because you'll tell them what are all the signals to look for. Is that right? And
yeah. So in the book, we go through the symptoms and the stages, as well as the foundation, how to nourish your body, because what we eat also creates a state of physical stress. If we're not drinking enough water, if we are relying on highly processed inflammatory foods, if we're skipping meals. Also, when we're stressed, our body tends to go through, the B vitamins, magnesium, vitamin D. So if we're not replenishing those, then we could also experience more severe symptoms. And then we talk about sleep as well. And then we go into the emotional aspect, the setting of boundaries and self-compassion and rest beyond sleeping, but actual, rest that, a lot of us don't know how to take a break without the guilt. And there are so many different ways that you can reset without getting to that point where you just can't do anything else. A lot of us just think, okay, now it's my time to rest because I have no energy. Now is my time to rest. But you can actually rest while you still have some energy in you, so that you can create more capacity. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is that if you are intentional, then you can create more capacity for the things that you truly want to dedicate your time to, for your passion, for your people, for your purpose. And that's why I love working with people who I tend to work with change makers, people who want to create a greater impact in their lives. And that always starts with you. If you want to create that ripple effect, it starts with how you're taking care of yourself first. sometimes the only way out is through. And a lot of us have become very dependent. I'm not talking about alcoholism, but a lot of us have become dependent on alcohol to wind down, caffeine to wake up, sugar to, give ourselves an energy boost in the afternoon.
Yes.
And it's really common when you're experiencing stress to reach for something sweet,
Okay.
especially if you haven't slept well. It's really common to want more to eat if you haven't slept well in general, not just sweet stuff.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
your a hormone called ghrelin, which stimulates hunger, goes up, and a hormone called leptin, which tells you you're full, goes down when you haven't slept enough. So you've probably experienced that, especially if you are a mom and you haven't slept through the night. You wake up the next morning famished, and that's why. Yeah. So, but the problem, we need to have awareness around these things, because it's okay if you recognize yourself in any of what I'm talking about, but we have to have awareness so that we can, the first step to making change is becoming aware. And a lot of us think, oh, this is just me. This is just how I am.
Okay.
And it's not just how you are. It's how you are when you're stressed. But there's another person that exists beyond the stress. And that's the one that I help my clients to find.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, you must have some happy clients. Sounds nice. That's great. Well, I have actually worked with Jolinda in the past, and not about stress, but other topics. And I must say that you are a magnificent coach. You received an award in Australia. You might have received some other accolades since, but what was that? Shine?
Yes, the CEO Shine Award, which is given by the founder of my life coaching academy.
Amazing.
To she nominates the graduates each year. It's usually about 5 who have really stood out when it comes to their living their purpose and sharing their message. And it's
Oh,
it's it's quite an honor to be nominated. I was nominated twiise and received it once. So
lovely.
yeah, it's
And the Australian connection is just a coincidence because
yeah.
Jolinda from America.
Yes.
And you went to Columbia University, is that right?
And
You
I
did
went
your
to
master's.
in New York City, yes. And I moved to Spain in 2008. So it's been 16 years now. And, I think that's also why my editor was interested in me writing a book about resilience, because having chosen a very different life path than the one that was expected of me, and creating a life for myself in a foreign country, getting married here, having my first child here, getting divorced here, starting my business here, it's required a lot of, getting back up again, and a lot of resilience, exactly. And resilience to me really is, there's a poem by Maya Angelou, and she says, there's a poem, I rise, which I have the last 3 lines tattooed on my arm, but the poem that I'm thinking of is choose to love again, choose to love one more time, and always one more time. And for me, resilience is choosing to rise one more time and always one more time, because life is going to knock us down. That's just part of it. That's how it goes. Especially if you choose to pursue a path that is less trodden. And creatives are, often people who, we carry this calling in us, whether we are a full-time creative or not. When you feel like you're ready to birth something into the world, that's not by accident, and it's not always easy to open yourself up as the channel and to be vulnerable and to share what's coming through you with the world, but that's what's required. And that in itself is a courageous act, and courageous acts always take resilience.
Mm. Fantastic. Oh, that's such a beautiful note to end on. Gorgeous, Jolinda. So at the end of this video, we'll put all of your links so everybody will know where to buy the book, where to find you, your website, whatever else. And I really thank you for your time. It was brilliant. And I really felt that everybody would have learned a lot today, and we're going to be a lot more aware. And hopefully we won't be leading down the path to get to any stages of further burnout. Then, you know, pick it up at the beginning. That would be great.
Yeah. If you go to my website, there's a free 5-minute video which leads you through a stress relief routine. So if you're listening to this and you feel like maybe I need a little bit of a break, then you can download that, and it leaves you feeling refreshed. You can do
And
it
if
at any
it's 5
time.
minutes, it's so doable. It's really
Just you
something.
can
Everybody should find that 5 minutes at least. Okay.
You don't even have to leave your desk. If you know, you can do it completely sitting down. No yoga mat required. So
oh, fantastic. I might do it now. Okay. So wonderful to see you, Jolinda. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. See you later.